Cocktail History with the Freeborn County Historical Museum, Library and Village. I'm Stephanie Kibler, Executive Director, here with Risha Lilienthal, Curator of Collections and Exhibits. And I'm kind of excited because we have collection item.
And hands-on items.
Yep,
you got
hands-on items. Have it on backwards?
No, you just have it. There you go.
Okay. And this is going to tie into what I'm going to talk about a little bit.
Yeah, the way I just did that?
No.
Okay. That'll tie into what I'm going to talk about.
So, today we're featuring the Southside. I feel like we need a little funk.
Yeah.
But we don't have that, so we'll move on. According to Vice, the Southside is mascot of the craft cocktail movement. That's all they said. They didn't tell me why.
When was the craft cocktail movement? Do you know when?
Well, I'm guessing probably pre-prohibition.
So I'm wondering if it's because a lot of the alcohol was like super not tasting good because of how they had to do it, and then they had to mix things in to make it taste good.
So can I tell my stories?
Okay.
Steal my thunder.
Sorry. I was excited.
I don't know, because to answer your question,
okay.
If it's pre-prohibition, the alcohol would not have been as bathtubby,
Oh, I guess
right?
that's true.
But this hat stinks, by the way.
Yep. You're not wrong.
Sorry. Anyway, so I'm not sure about that. And I have, of course, kind of a wide range of how this cocktail came to be.
Okay. Wait, you mean the origin is muddy?
Shrouded in mystery, questionable claims.
Imagine.
But there are, so there's a couple different things here. The most popular origin story for the cocktail is that it's named after Chicago's Southside.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So I liked that one. Was invented to mask the poor quality of Prohibition-era gin, better known as bathtub gin, right?
Okay, yep.
This history ties the drink to famous Prohibition mobster Al Capone, who famously supplied Chicago with his bathtub gin. Al Capone and his gang controlled illegal alcohol business on the southern side of Chicago, while another gang controlled the northern side.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The northern side smuggled in a gin that was quite mellow and supposedly tasted pretty good.
Oh.
Which worked well in a cocktail with ginger ale, and it was called the North Side.
Oh.
Al Capone's gang smuggled in a harsher, less palatable gin. Creating cocktails with it therefore required more ingredients, and especially sugar and citrus fruit. I gotta take that off. That hat stinks.
Yep.
Wow. I don't know where that hat came from, but and that is a hands-on hat, so that may explain it.
Yep.
And the drink that concocted with the gin, the lime, and the simple syrup became a favorite of Al Capone's and his pals, his gang, his members, his associates, and it was christened the Southside. Unfortunately, the story might be more fun than it is true.
Oh.
But it is really fun.
Yeah.
Every city has a South Side. The canon version of this cocktail from Club 21 is located in Lower Manhattan. So is the South Side's name referring to the South Side of Manhattan or Chicago? So was it created in Chicago and popularized in New York? Who knows? The recipe from New York is in the 1946 Stock Club Bar book by Lucius Baby. Original recipe is essentially a gin mojito.
Ooh,
which is yeah. So and simple syrup, sure. And is there no? There's no lime in a mojito.
I don't think so. Nope.
So that's possibly one. The drink was the house drink at the 21 Club. And Dale DeGroff, author of Craft of the Cocktail, says the drink actually evolved from an older drink called the Major Bailey. We will have to look into the Major Bailey.
Yeah.
Major Bailey hailed from Jack and Charlie's earlier joint. This is him still talking, called Puncheon. And there were 4 locations in all before their 52nd Street. The Major Bailey recipe was almost the same as the Southside, but used both lemon and lime juice.
Okay.
And a shot of club soda.
Oh, is that the fizz? Southside fizz? Oh.
The recipe is just a thunder stealer. The recipe for the Southside shows up in Hugo Enslin's recipes for mixed drinks from 1917.
Uh-huh.
This book, that book actually, the Recipes for Mixed Drinks, is actually the last published cocktail book before Prohibition.
Wow.
And it's like like a little sliver of New York cocktail DNA frozen in amber. Shoot, and I can't remember where I found that, but I thought that was really funny.
That's a nice phrasing.
Yeah. And towards the back of this book is, in the fizz section,
Okay.
is a Southside fizz.
Okay.
Okay, but according to David Wondrich, author of Imbibe, you're supposed to shoot it down. This was before Alka-Seltzer. It was medicinal.
Oh.
So that, I mean, we've run into that with the gin and the lemon lime, different cocktails, like
Whiskey, bourbon.
scurvy.
Yeah.
What else? What else did they say it was good for? Settles your tummy a little bit.
Yeah. There was a good word. Biliousness.
Biliousness, yes.
Bile. Yeah. Yeah.
This hat has a biliousness smell to it. So according to David, anyone who hooks his cart to any cocktail history is going to go off-road, which we're finding. And the stories, there's always multiple stories of origin.
Yep. Yep.
He liked the Southside Hunt Club story. I still like the Al Capone story.
Yeah.
And I
It's
love
Al
Chicago.
Capone. I love Chicago too. I want it to be Southside Chicago.
Okay, that's a big influence, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
We've decided.
So to mix this lovely,
Yes.
it is 5 whole mint leaves.
Oh, you put the ice in there. Okay.
Yes.
Look at you.
Well,
Oh,
there's
okay.
I think we should do, we can easily, so our new cocktail shaker, by the way, folks, picked it up at the Vintage Grove in Clark's Grove.
Yeah.
And it's lovely and it's big. So 5, it's supposed to be 5 each, whole. So put 10 in, because we're gonna mix 2. And we're gonna need a jigger. Excuse me for a minute. I knew I was missing something. All of a sudden my allergies kicked in, probably from the what is it?
Biliousness.
Biliousy
word.
hat.
That's good.
And then, so it's a ½ ounce each of simple syrup. So a full ounce, because we're making 2, but a ½ ounce for 1. This next one's gonna be tricky, just so you know.
Oh. I was almost a math major.
Almost doesn't cut
Does
it.
not show.
Or as my daughter would say, doesn't cut it out.
This is always almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Yes. Hand grenades, yikes. 2/3 ounce of lime juice per cocktail.
So
that-
4/3.
4/3.
Yeah, so it's
So it's
1 1/3.
1 1/3
Aha!
ounces.
Okay.
So you get to do 1 1/3 ounces of lime juice. And the third could be a little tricky.
Oh, it's so weird.
It's an odd shape, so yeah, and you don't want to go too much or too little. That looked good. And then it is 2 ounces each of dry gin, and we're using Bombay again. So 4 ounces total. And I'm loving this new cocktail shaker because it's got plenty of space.
I'm not
So
spilling.
we're combining all of them We've only got a few ice cubes in there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to shake that shaker until the ice fully melts. Now this is where we need a little Southside funk. I don't know any funk. Give me some funk. What's some funk music?
I mean, Eddie Cochran wasn't the grandfather of funk, but he was
grandfather
the grandfather
of punk. And we do have a meeting today on Eddie Cochran.
Ah,
So
is
I
this
don't
a
know.
twist?
No,
Oh,
pop it
it's
up. Ooh. Make sure it's on there tight. Making me nervous. 20 minutes later. Do we need to get our other shaker? That's making me a little nervous.
Okay, one more time.
Can I borrow that?
Yes. It scared me.
It's leaking.
Yeah.
It smells ginny. Hang on. I feel like we're gonna have to work with that shaker a little bit.
Yeah.
It's so nice that everybody's so patient with us. Like
Our first live.
Like they have a choice, right? Like they have a choice on. Oop. I'm not gonna be able to do this very long. It's almost melted. I'm just gonna say the jumping is not helping the shaking.
It helps me.
Let's see. Can I see? Okay, I think those are small enough, don't you? It's gonna take a long time to.
I can shake it off camera if you want while you talk.
I think you can pour.
Good enough?
Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cold.
It is cold. It smells good.
Oh, with the strainer we don't get the mint.
Right. That's. You're not supposed to get the mint. And we're gonna add a little. I did a little lime. A little lime.
Yeah.
Just to add in. Just because I thought it would be kind of nice.
You are supposed to garnish with the mint, though, aren't you? That too?
Are you from Minnesota? Yowza. You are supposed to. No, you are not supposed to.
Really?
This actually doesn't call for any garnish.
Well, fiddly-dee.
I suppose if you wanted to, you could. But I was going to say you should maybe try it without first. Okay. Ooh, smells good.
Cheers.
Cheers. It smells minty. Ooh, that's really good.
That is really good.
How have I not heard of a
Ooh.
Southside before? It's just got the perfect mint and the perfect little lime in there.
That's really good.
Yeah,
Yes.
lovely.
Ooh, I like it with the mint. You gotta do it.
Because you can smell the mint, I suppose.
Mhm.
Did you pinch your mint?
I didn't. I should have. I'm an uncultured swine. Okay.
Maybe. Maybe one of our episodes should be on bar etiquette.
Mm.
You uncultured swine.
I want to know. I know the shots. You do the like boom, and then
The what?
we'll have to do it on an etiquette.
Oh, okay. You're talking shooters?
Yeah.
No. I'm talking old school bar etiquette.
Okay. They didn't do shots old school?
Well, you're supposed to shoot this one down, but they don't want to slam that on the counter.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
All right.
I've already spilled.
I had to check. So, Al Capone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I was trying to look up random things about him that could tie to Freeborn County because obviously he wasn't here.
He was in Minnesota, though.
Sure. Once, sometimes.
Yes.
Yes. Not always. He
No,
wasn't from
but-
here. But I found out that he liked spaghetti with walnut sauce.
Ooh,
That's what he would have
that
with
piques
his
my
spaghetti.
curiosity. So would it be like a walnut pesto, I'm assuming?
It was a simple oil and bread crumb base with toasted nuts and a smattering of cheese.
I might try that. That
Yeah,
actually
you should
sounds
do it.
kind of good.
Well, it was a more traditional recipe that after Capone's death, his sister sent the recipe to Ragu.
To ragu.
And
But ragu doesn't have a walnut sauce.
They used it to make their very first spaghetti sauce.
So they took that recipe and added tomatoes.
And they used
Interesting.
it. Yeah.
Is that what makes ragu taste different? It's got walnuts?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm going to have to look
Yeah,
at
we're gonna
that.
have to look it up.
Interesting.
If you know, let us know. So I was trying to find something related to that, but I couldn't find anything. So I just thought it was cool, so I wanted to share it anyways. But other than that, Al Capone did the smuggling. You know, Prohibition times. He smuggled the bathtub gin. And so there was in the 1882 book that we have, in June in 1882, there was a gang of robbers in Albert Lea who went through the railway station and several residencies, and they got considerable booty. And soon, it's listed in the book saying that they...
Booty.
Yep, that was in the book.
Well, did they use the word loot back then, or was it all booty?
I don't know. That's an interesting etymology to look up. But in the book, they also said they soon left for a healthier climate.
Too cold for them.
I mean, yeah, oh, that's smart, yeah.
I do believe. Oh, you're talking our smugglers. I was going back to Al Capone. Oh, my word. Never mind.
Yeah, that
You're
was
talking
one
about
here.
Our robbers that
Yeah.
were
In Freeborn County, 1882. Unnamed robbers coming through.
unnamed robbers.
But also smuggling.
Stealing the booty.
Yep. This ship right here.
I stole your thunder because I said smugglers.
I said smugglers.
I said it before you said it.
Oh.
I stole your thunder. I apologize.
No, you can't steal my thunder. It's all sharing. I have enough to share.
That really was kind of a diss.
Here is a Chinese junk ship, and this was in John Felix Dryden's collection. This was something he brought back from Shanghai because he was an avid traveler, and it's called a Chinese junk ship.
Why is it called a Chinese junk ship?
So it's hard to understand, I guess.
Okay.
It's just a sailing vessel.
Yes.
A junk is a Chinese sailing vessel.
Oh, interesting.
It comes from the Javanese zhong,
Okay.
meaning ship or large vessel, and it kind of ended up going into junk, is what it ended up being called. I don't know
So it
if it's
doesn't
zhong.
actually, like, it's not like collecting junk.
No,
It's just called that.
it's called that because I'm guessing zhong ended up becoming junk through the years.
Because when you first heard that, did you think, well, what kind of junk did they gather?
Well, I thought it was labeled as it being like junk from China. I was really, really like, wow.
That was rude.
Yeah, but no, it's what's the ship is called?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
And it was meant ship or large vessel. It was originally developed 220 BC, between 220 BC and 200 CE. So between that time, and they evolved to be one of the better ships in like sailing ships in history.
Like better because they were safer, stronger, sturdier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so it was a type of sailing ship with these kinds of sails, and they had northern junk, southern junk. There were different variations, but they were usually used by merchants to carry goods along rivers or into the sea too. It was eventually when American businessmen went over to like China and stuff in that area, you know, touring and such and trying to get business, they started bringing back a lot of items, you know, to show and have little exhibitions and stuff. And this was a very common one in the 1910s to bring back and show in exhibitions. And that was likely what Mr. Meehan did. He brought it back and was showing people.
Meehan?
This cool. Yeah.
I thought you said Dryden.
John Felix Dryden Meehan.
Oh, you left the Meehan on.
Oh, sorry.
I was trying to figure out, because I thought it was a Meehan, but then I thought, well, who's Dryden?
Yeah, that's his middle
That's
name.
him. Okay.
Yeah. I guess I didn't finish. JFD Meehan.
It's been one of those
It
weeks.
has. It's just
A
like, you
lot
know my
going
mind,
on
right?
here today, this week.
Yeah, and it ended up being a very common one that were used then in smuggling and in a lot of piracy too, because they were
Okay.
such good ships. They were stolen a lot because they were fast, strong, sturdy.
So the Chinese were not necessarily the smugglers or pirates.
Not always.
It was
no.
when they got stolen and then were misused.
Usually, yeah,
Yeah,
but it was
okay.
also, within, Chinese piracy was also a thing.
Sure, sure.
And there's a list of a tale of one of these ships called the Polite Pirate, I think is what it's called. Is it the Polite or the Peaceful? It's like the double P, Polite or Peaceful Pirate. And
I like polite better.
right? And it talks about from it being built in the 1700s and going all the way up to early 1900s.
Wow.
And it was still pretty much the same ship. It had gone through some, of course, changeovers and
Sure.
renovations, but it was mostly the same bones
ship.
because it was
Wow.
built so well. Yeah,
Jack Sparrow was kind of a polite pirate. In his moments.
in moments. I love Jack Sparrow.
I know, that's why I threw that out there.
Yeah, that's gonna make me blush. Scarface.
I didn't say Johnny Depp.
Well,
I don't really like him anymore.
Oh.
Sorry. Scarface, yes.
Scarface is a nickname of Al Capone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked up Scar in our 1911 history of Freeborn
Yeah.
County. And we don't have a scar face, but we have a scar tongue.
Okay, tell me more.
So-
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Frank A. Blackmer, who had passed by 1911, he was somebody who was said to be a person that would never be forgotten in Freeborn
Okay.
County. He was energetic, kindly, ambitious, and generous, and said to be one of those men who may truly be said to have been a friend to everyone.
Oh.
He had a lot of really good things that he did and a lot of things he was involved in. He was involved in press a lot, so he did a lot of newspaper stuff.
Okay.
And he helped to organize the 5th Minnesota Infantry
Oh.
and went and, fought in the Civil War and in 1862 as well.
Go ahead.
Oh,
I'm just storing my questions. up.
Okay. August 22, 1862, he participated in a battle at Fort Ridgely near New Ulm, and that's where Sergeant Blackmer received a severe gunshot wound to the face
Ooh.
and jaw and tongue.
Ooh.
And in consequence, he was he received a discharge from service,
Sure.
of course. And then in October of that same year, the ball. So this happened in August.
Yeah.
In October, the ball was removed from his jaw.
That would have been lead too, wouldn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh.
And it was in Minneapolis, and so then he remained in the hospital suffering for a while, and had a big fever from it as well. And then he got a long scar on his tongue resulting from it. That would continue to trouble him throughout his life.
Did it affect his speech?
I'm not sure. It didn't say that. I don't know if it did. It might have just made it hard for him to talk. It might have hurt.
Do we have anything of his in collections?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
No.
Just curious.
Yeah. But that again, he has a long, several paragraphs in that 1911
book?
book about him.
Such a good book.
Yeah, it's a good book.
It's a fun book.
And here, would you like to pass me the hats? So these are both hats, the style of hats that Al Capone would have worn.
Yes.
These are different kinds of hats, though.
Yes, they are.
So the one you put on,
The bilious one.
the bilious one, yes. This here is not a fedora.
What is it?
It's a trilby,
A trilby.
which is very similar to a fedora.
What are the differences?
So if you notice, this hat has a wider brim than this hat, and this hat is a little bit firmer.
Okay.
Not quite as
It's probably the
this
odor.
one. This fedoras were used a lot to be like crunched in their
So,
cases. And
I
so it would
always
pop
thought
them
a
up.
fedora had a smaller rim.
Fedoras are the wider
Okay.
brim and the flatter brim, and you can kind of malleable with these a lot more.
Okay.
This one you tend to only have this part go down and this part up, and so this one is more casual, and then this one is casual, but it's also a little bit more again malleable.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna let you guess, which one did Al Capone wear more often?
That one.
Yes. He tended to wear fedoras more often, and also this color was more likely a color he would have worn.
Okay, so I might be I did the gangster tour in St.
Oh,
Paul.
yeah?
And I'm almost positive they discussed that he was a fan of the fedora.
Yes.
And I think because he could tip it down and it would hide his face.
And also he tended to wear darker suits, and so they wanted to contrast with a lighter fedora,
Okay.
is what he would do.
That hat is small because I did try that hat
Oh, yeah?
on, and my brain is way too large for that hat.
Yes, that is how you should say it. Yep.
So do you think Al Capone had a favorite haberdashery?
Oh, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I wish we had a haberdashery.
I wish we had a haberdashery.
I'd like it right next to the millinery. We need more men's hats.
We need more men's hats.
So we could start a haberdashery.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.